So to begin with, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Emily and I'm currently residing in the UK. The aims and objectives of today are to really look at how we can effectively incorporate Mentimeter into our lessons. So I'm going to start by introducing Mentimeter. So Mentimeter is a really fresh and fun way to engage your students. I first came into contact with Mentimeter on my master's programme. And I actually thought that it was a really great tool and it seemed to fit seamlessly into the lesson, and it was almost familiar to the students, but offered a little bit of, a few different features that they could use. We can loosely monitor participation using Mentimeter because what the programme does is it enables students to participate, and in the bottom corner of the screen, there is like a little count, so you can see how many students have actually participated in it, but you can't see their name moving around the screen. So any thoughts that they put on there, any feelings that they might have, they are anonymous. So again, it might relieve some of that pressure of participating in the lesson because it's more anonymous than other platforms that we might use. Mentimeter offers exciting templates and these suit a variety of different subjects. I'll give you a tour of Mentimeter, but there are loads that you can choose from and there's so much inspiration on there. You know, you can really tweak the templates to suit the subjects that you're doing. And as I've previously said, it really does suit all modes of learning. So it works great if you're doing an online lesson, but you can also use it in class as well. So how to set it up? So today I'm really going to focus on the free version of Mentimeter. There is a paid version as well, but obviously I'm quite mindful of the fact that at the moment school budgets are really tight, and unless you really need to financially commit to new technology, and you can really prove to yourself that you're going to be using it every single lesson, then perhaps it's just worth giving the free account a go for a few months to see whether it's something that you feel comfortable and confident using and something that your students will engage with. I'm not about peddling technology and making you pay for things that perhaps you're not going to use in the future. And there are certainly enough free templates and free tools that you can use on this website without having to commit to anything too soon. Once you've set up your Mentimeter account using the web address, it's really similar to setting up a presentation. So I'm now going to show you what it will look like. So if you just pop into any search browser at mentimeter.com, this is the page you should be greeted with. Now, as I already have an account, you'll notice that it says your presentations in the top right-hand corner. If you log on to the website as a new user, it will say login and it will also say create an account. So you can create a free account and it takes all of about 5 minutes to complete. You can see you've got your educational pricing along the top for those of you that are particularly interested, and there's lots of information on this website on the uses of Mentimeter. So I just want to show you some of the features that Mentimeter has, just to kind of prove to you actually that you don't necessarily need to go out and financially commit to this technology. So in terms of your audience, you can use Mentimeter with an audience as big as you like. So I've typically used my Mentimeter presentation slides with just a class of 25 students. Now, if you're wanting to do this, use the same Mentimeter slide but across multiple classes, then what you might want to do is just duplicate your original slides to create separate mentees, because then you don't have all of your students from different classes collaborating on the same slide. Okay, but likewise, if you did want to roll this out across a whole body of students, perhaps you wanted to use it in an assembly, then you can just pop it on the big screen and they can all participate. So it's really applicable to loads of different environments. The only real difficulty, and I really do use this term very lightly, is that when you're using the free version, when you're creating the slides, there are limits, and now limits on how many slides you can have per presentation. So when you create a presentation, it will just appear as a blank slide. Okay, now you can have up between 3 and 5 slides on a free version, on the free version of Mentimeter, but you can have as many presentations as you like. So I wouldn't typically put a whole lesson's worth of slides on a Mentimeter, because personally I think you go from one end of the spectrum of engagement to the other, and students will just stop engaging with it. But this makes for a really great starter or plenary, in which case you don't necessarily need an awful lot of slides in the presentation. So the 3 to 5 slide restriction is really good. Although having said this, since I've started trialing this software, they have been updating it on a daily basis. So when you log into this, it might be that they've changed the restrictions and put, allowed you to have more slides. But, since I've been trying this, there have been about 8 different features. So it's always the way that during the recorded tutorial, there will be another feature for you to use. But that's a great thing. So far, all of the features that have been added have been available to the free version. So again, it's a really great platform for you to have a go at. So when you're creating your slide, you're faced with a blank slide, and then down the right hand side we have a set of options. So if you just hover over the option, you'll see that a faint grey outline of what that slide will look like will appear. Okay, so you can do polls, you can do open-ended questions, word clouds, Likert scales and things like that. I think the Likert scales are really good for assessing to see if students have achieved learning objectives. They can just move the scales on their phones to see whether they definitely agree or don't agree. And you can also, as you scroll down, pop other features on here as well. So more recently, they've added the feature of putting quotations. So again, a really nice starter for the lesson, particularly if you're doing literary subjects, English literature, English language, or anything like that. You can also include videos on the slide as well, so students can engage with the videos and watch them on their personal devices and engage with the slide. So there are lots of different options on here. I particularly like the big text option. I think this would look really great in primary teaching if they're learning their words or their sounds or their phonics. You can really make it big on their computer screen, so it's really lively and really engaging, which is great. And then at the bottom, you've even got some more advanced options that you could use. So you could even get them to participate in a grid. And this grid is particularly useful for business, looking at Ansoff's matrix or the Boston matrix. Students can actually drag and drop the items to where they think it's going to go, and you get a sense on the screen of what the general thoughts are with regards to the positioning on the model. You can have quiz questions. However, this is where the limit to the slides doesn't necessarily work. So if you're happy to pay for Mentimeter, then the quiz feature is great, because you can obviously get them to sign in using the joining details, and then the questions will appear on the Google Meet, for instance, and they can just answer on their phones. And you can have as many questions as you like, and there's a little leaderboard at the end. With the limited free version, you're only entitled to between 3 and 5 slides, and one of those slides would be your leaderboard. So One thing to really bear in mind is whether Mentimeter is the most appropriate tool to use for a quiz. You might want to use something others such as Kahoot or 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗏. Now, if you're lacking inspiration, then you can click on examples and lots of different options will pop up. So I'm just going to set up my slide template, and then that will enable me to show you some of the examples. So down the side, you've got lots of different categories, and you can see ones that have previously been created. So again, if you're lacking a little bit of inspiration, then you can have a look at what's already been created. Some of them will only be available on the paid option, but most of them are available for the free version. Now, you'll see that there are different categories, and this is where I really think that Mentimeter is useful across the board. So if you want to get a course evaluation, you could set up a slide to enable you to do that. You can see here we've used Likert scales, and it produces a really nice infographic. But perhaps you're working in a more pastoral role and you want to check in with some of your students. Now, what you can do is you can send your Mentimeter, but you don't have to show students the results. So you can actually hide the results. So if I was a personal tutor, I could send out the Mentimeter to my class, and I could ask them how they're feeling, how are they feeling being back in college, and then all I need to do is hide the results. This would mean that the students can't see the results, but I can as a teacher. Okay, I can gather in those results and it would help me moving forward. Another handy feature of Mentimeter is that you can set the pace. So unlike other Google Slides or presentation software, students can just sit there and click through and read ahead, and it gets really annoying as a teacher. So you can either set them this Mentimeter as an independent task and they can choose the pace, or you can set the pace. So until they've responded to your question, you don't move the slide on and they can't look at the next question. So again, that's a really, really good feature, particularly if you're dealing with perhaps secondary school students and college students that just want to click ahead and get through the activity. Other handy features, so you can obviously moderate the slides, so make sure that you're reviewing the comments before they're posted. But more recently, you can now add live comments to your slide. So when you're presenting and you are either discussing what's been produced on the Mentimeter, students can actually type comments in the little chat function on their phone, and it will appear on the slide. It will gradually move up the screen and then it will disappear. So as a teacher, you can just see little passing questions as they are posed by the students, but then they disappear so that they're not there clogging up the screen or distracting other users. Following the use of your Mentimeter in the lesson as well, you will also be sent an email. On that email, you get a copy of your slides, and you'll also get a copy of the feedback. So you can then share that with your students on your virtual learning environment, such as Moodle, or perhaps you've got a Google site, or you're using Classroom. So again, you can give the students a copy of what they've participated in. So if they're using it for revision or consolidation, then they've got a copy of it. So I'm actually going to set up a question. So I am going to type in here, do you have any questions on Mentimeter? So I'm going to actually set up a slide now for you, and we're going to use this at the end of the session. So I've just typed in my question there, and you can see that it appears. If you go into Customize, you can jazz up your slides a little bit. So you can have a look at adding some images if you want to. You can have a look at layouts. There's all sorts that you can do on here. Along the top, you've got themes. Now, this is particularly nice if your college is quite picky on the use of corporate colours and business logos and things like that. Then you can actually set up your own your own slide templates, and that can be distributed across the organisation so that they all look the same, and that can be completed in the Create New Theme section. But I'm going to go for hot pink because that's my favourite colour. And so now you will see on my slide, I've set it all up. That's all I've got to do. And then what I'll do towards the end of the session is share the information with you, and you can have a go at participating. One thing to say about the joining information is that it expires every 2 days, but when you log into your Mentimeter and you open the slides that you would like to use, it will refresh the joining code. So one thing that you might want to bear in mind is if you've got a set of class slides and you want to put the joining information for the Menti onto your class slides, you might want to do it just before you do the lesson so that the current joining instructions are available to the students. If not, if you don't want to do that, then literally just pop your Mentimeter on full screen and the students can just join using the information. Okay, so you can add live commenting, and as I mentioned before, this is one of their newest features. You can really set the pace of your presentation, which I think is one of the most important ways of encouraging engagement from students. You can't move on until you've answered my question. And you can also share a copy of your presentation to your students. So again, if you choose to pay for Mentimeter and you do more of a longer extended activity, then your students will always get a copy of it so that they can use it for their own purposes. You can hide the results as well, which makes this really useful as a personal tutor, trying to get a little bit of feedback from students. Perhaps they won't talk to you in person, but they might type a little anonymous comment on a form, which might enable you to help them. Okay, and remember, you might send this Menti to one person, or you might send it to 350 students. But either way, it will enable you to get a little bit more feedback out of your students. I've used Mentimeter as a starter activity, and I've also used it for feedback, but you can use it for quizzes, although I would probably prefer to use something like Kahoot. You could even use it for business models. I've seen other staff use it in science, and I've also seen it used in maths as well, particularly when you're looking at graphs and statistics and things. It's a really nice interactive piece of software to use for that. And it's a really useful tool to just check in with your students to see how they're getting on from a safeguarding or pastoral perspective. This is a great tool for the classroom, and my students really enjoyed using it. They love being able to use the emoji function, although, you know, some of the emojis they used were a little bit suspicious. So again, you know, you might not want to tell your students they can use emojis if you don't want to see lots of poo emojis floating around your screen. But hey, isn't that one of the perks of being in education? It's really quick and easy to set up. So literally, you've seen me set one up there and then. You can duplicate the presentations as well. So if I were delivering this session to another class, I could just copy my slide that I've just created and then share it with them using a different code. The free version gives you a lot, so I really don't think you need to feel pressured to commit financially. Go and have a play with the features and see how it works in your role. And the paid version obviously offers more features and unlimited presentation slides. So again, you know, you might find that that's more appropriate to your specific role. So thank you very much.